You don't get a lot of guys like Joel who's humble enough to say, I don't want to run that P&L and I don't want to be the plant manager. I want to be the guy that is continuing to take these young people in and training and developing them and growing their careers.
Welcome to the Machine Shop Mastery Podcast, where we uncover the stories behind successful machine shops and their owners. By interviewing current and former shop owners, we dig deep to unveil their secrets of success and the struggles and challenges they've overcome on their paths to building thriving shops. We aim to elevate how important the machining industry is and inspire others by highlighting why owning a shop can be a great vehicle to creating jobs, stimulating the economy, and creating wealth. Here's our host, former machine shop owner himself, Paul Van Meter.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Machine Shop Mastery. Today, we have an awesome episode. I got to sit down with David and Joel from P1 Industries, co-founders of this incredible business. They have grown it from nothing to $50 million, 150 employees in the last 20 years. That is truly an achievement and is not something that hardly any shop I've ever talked with has done. And one of the secrets of their success that you'll hear from them directly in just a moment is just how much they invest in their people. Joel worked as an adjunct professor in their local community college in the machining program for many years, and he had the absolute pick of the litter of the very best young people. And those young people that they brought into the business that were eager to learn are now the leaders in their business as they scale to a point where they need sort of, middle management, leaders in different divisions, different profit areas of the business. And it's just so cool to hear them talk about how much they love hearing about these or seeing these employees just thrive. So it's a fantastic story. They're doing so many things right. As an entrepreneur myself, I just love hearing about really competent, successful people doing just the right things to grow a business. And this is very much one of those. So grab your pen and pencil and let's get into the episode with Joel and David. David and Joel from P1 Industries. It's great to have you guys here. Welcome.
Oh,
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's very nice to be here, Paul. Thank you.
Well, I have been kind of admiring P1 from afar based on everything you guys share on LinkedIn, which is just amazing. I definitely encourage everyone to follow your company and what you're doing. But let's start with a bit of just a snapshot of what P1 specializes in, what types of parts, machining, industries, size, and then let's go back and talk about the origin story.
Well, I'm going to let Dave handle this one. He's got the gift of gab.
Yeah, no, great. Paul, thanks for having us. This is great. We follow Pro Shop, follow what you guys are doing. So just really appreciate everything you're doing for the industry. Joel and I have been doing this together now for over 20 years. Today, we're a turnkey contract manufacturing business serving the power, defense, and aerospace industries. When I say power, we're talking more about, utility scale power generation, gas turbine generator, defense industry, primarily naval. And we do everything from, support engineering work to procurement of materials to a full-on turnkey manufacturing. Primary services related to machining, plating, coatings. We also do a lot of assembly work and kitting work as well. But, we've been at this for this is our 20th year. Joel and I started it in 2006. And the business has been successful. We've, and just kind of give you a quick context, Joel and I, when we first started the company, we were saying, hey, let's divide and conquer here. Joel's the technical, he's the brains, he's the good looks. And I said, look, you handle hiring and developing a world-class workforce. I'll run the business. And we even have it so far as I play golf in the summer and he hunts in the winter. So we kind of have this nice dynamic going. But today, this year, we're about a $50 million business in revenue.
Wow.
And, we have a vision and goal to keep growing it.
That's amazing.
And I'll just add that, to help the growth of the company, we realized we needed skilled labor. And the way that we went about that was we started in 2007 and we had a couple years under our belt. In 2009, I started adjunct instructing at a local college for advanced manufacturing. And I did that for 13 years, part-time at night. And I was able to meet a lot of young, talented guys that weren't necessarily the best at the trade, but they had that desire to learn. And, we brought them on board and we trained them up through the business. They started, ground level, just learning how to deburr parts, and now they're the leaders in our business. And it's kind of like I don't know. I look at P1 as we're kind of like educational locksmiths. You know what I mean? We don't necessarily teach what to do. We just open the doors and let people be what they can be. And we've got a couple different factories right now. We're operating in three different facilities that are going to soon become one. And our shop managers and leaders, they're all guys that came from Hudson Valley, and we hired them and trained them, and now they're the leaders of the business.
That's got to be so rewarding to
It,
watch that
to
evolution.
me, that's what it's all about. I love seeing guys come from nothing and be able to succeed.
And by the way, Joel's a very humble guy. Paul, probably as far as I'm concerned, I'm 48 years old. Probably one of the best teachers, best mentors, across anything, right? He's in the trades, he's a machinist, he's tried and true. But you look at across the spectrum of any profession, Joel, from my perspective, is one of the best mentors, and he's got a heart for it, he's got a passion for it, and these guys love him. So
When I see and talk to people like you guys that just glow when they talk about their teams and what they've achieved and the growth and the careers and, buying houses and, raising their families, I know that that's a successful business because there's so much emphasis on growing people and the people then help you grow your business as opposed to
100%.
they're there
Yeah,
to serve you growing your business. So, yeah, kudos to you for having that be your priority. That's
thank you.
amazing. So yeah, let's go back to the very beginning. How did you guys decide to start a shop together? What were you doing? How did you meet? Yeah, all of that.
Let Dave tell how we first met.
Yeah, so I was working at GE. My, four generations of General Electric. My father was there for 38 years. Both my grandparents, both my great grandparents, going back on 1908.
Oh
Never knew I
gosh.
wanted to go to manufacturing, but when I graduated from school, my father helped me get a job at GE and kind of progressed through that. Ended up leaving GE in '04 and put together some financing to buy a business that was having some struggles. Joel had been at that business since 1997.
Yeah.
So we had about
Mm,
about an 18-month, 2-year stint working for that business together. And in 2006, we called one another. We said, "Hey, let's take what we learned, over the last couple of years. Can't do this on our own, but together, I think we can build something special." And I don't think Joel told his wife right away that he was starting a company, but
Well, I had interviewed at GE, and I was gonna go down there and have a career at GE. And Dave calls up and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, this is what I'm gonna do. You want to start a shop?" He says. I said, "Well, yeah, let's try that." So, I had just my wife and I had just gotten into a house and everything, and I had bills to pay, and it was kind of a wild thing to do, but I said, "Let's go for it."
Yeah.
well, good for you for having the vision, the guts, I guess, to say yes to that.
I don't
Yeah,
know if I
Uh,
do that in my 40s, Paul, but we were both about 26, 27 years old. So at
yeah,
that juncture, what do you have to lose? So
right.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I started my shop when I was 23 or 24, and yeah, your bills are relatively low. You don't have kids yet.
yeah,
There's not a lot to lose. Like you might as well just go for it. So
Yeah,
yep.
that's
yeah.
awesome. And then, so what was your first machine? How did you fund the business? Did you have some financing or just get loans
So
from the bank or?
I had a salesman at the previous business. He worked for Mazak, A.W. Miller in upstate New York, and his name was Len Kozlowski. I told him, I said, "We're looking to start a shop, and we need some equipment. Can you find us just an old Mazak lathe?" And he came up with it's a SQT 28M, and it was up in Canada. And Dave and I took a road trip with Len, and we went and looked at it, and we said, "Let's go for it." So that was our first machine, first CNC machine that we bought.
Yeah, it
Very
was a it
cool.
was a it was a 1993. I'll never forget it. It was about $59,000, if I remember correctly. And we also bought a Bridgeport right away too. And it was bank financing from the beginning. We had a
Hmm.
we had a initial partner who helped us a little bit get off the ground and introduce us to some banking. We ended up buying that partner out over the last 12 or 14 years ago. But that's how we got started. And Joel, we brought in three folks. It was himself, a guy named Jerry, Freddie, and Ben. And we went and got to work, and we had this older lathe. We had a Bridgeport, and they were making seals on a lathe and hand drilling radial holes around the whole diameter using a Bridgeport
Yeah.
machine. It was humble beginnings for sure.
In the beginning, it's like we knew how to make the parts the right way, but we just had to find a way to make them. And then
Right.
once we earned enough money, we could buy the right equipment to make the
That's
parts.
right.
Sure. Yeah,
I always tell
I
people
So
mean,
did
Joel's like MacGyver. You give him a toothpick and some gum, he'll figure out how to make something.
so did you have those 2 or 3 guys back when it was just the one lathe and the Bridgeport?
well, so we were actually in the process of buying some equipment from the auction at the previous place that we worked at. So
Oh, it went on, okay,
we
okay.
brought those guys on board because we knew that we could, when that auction took place, we could get those machines for them and
Got
hit
it.
the ground running.
Okay,
So
makes
Yeah,
sense.
and with all honesty, we got kind of lucky in a way. Not with the people. The talent was always the talent, but we were, our initial client was General Electric, and the reason why our company's called P1 Industries is we started it. I remember going to the lawyer's office and they're like, what do you guys do? Because I didn't know what to name the company. He's like, oh, we're going to be packaging for GE. Like, wow, just call it Package One Incorporated. And so they gave us some contracts where we were going out and buying a lot of components on their behalf and then kitting them and then shipping them. So it was more like an inventory consolidation kitting play for GE.
Okay.
And then we started buying equipment. So we were kind of controlling this buy. And we said, well, why not, and Joel had a lot of background and credibility making these parts. He knew how to make them. So I said, why don't we just start picking and choosing what we want to bring in house and qualify and make? And that's how we got off the ground. Was we started kitting, we started getting some good contracts with GE, and then we started buying the equipment to make the products. And Joel put the workforce together to make it a reality.
yeah,
Wow, that's an interesting strategy.
we
They
didn't really,
clearly
we
David,
didn't.
from your experience there and your time there, like, you knew they needed this packaging sort of service, and they
Yeah, Joel, this previous company, Joel had been working with GE since '97. He knew the products well. My background at GE just kind of merged at the right time to take advantage of the opportunity.
got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So initial launch customer, nice one. How did you then grow into other industries, other customers? What was your sales and marketing strategy back then?
Well, first and foremost, make good parts.
You're not gonna get far without that.
Yeah.
It's funny. You're asking a lot of business questions going. So, Joel jumping on the technical stuff. But so for the first 10 years, GE was our primary client. So we had a pretty captive relationship with them. So if you go from like 2006 to 2016, we grew pretty rapidly to about 18 million in revenue, but a large chunk of that was GE revenue. And they're a great client, still a great client today. They're amazing to work with, great people, great opportunities. But we knew we had to make an adjustment to diversify and add new clients. And it was a pretty bumpy 3 or 4 years when we did that. I mean, you go from making products that you know very, very well with a strong client relationship. And we started moving into the defense industry in particular. We had to get new quality certifications, hire more salespeople, start, knocking on those doors. And it took us about 4, maybe 5 years to start getting into a rhythm of consistent revenue volume with the defense industry to diversify us. Obviously, we diversified into the power industry as well, but the model was let's move into the defense industry. Let's add new, energy clients as well, put better certifications in place, and then Joel and the team, just putting the right equipment on the ground, right capabilities.
Hmm.
I'm curious, you mentioned new salespeople, certification. I mean, the certifications seem obvious. That makes
Yeah,
sense. On the salesperson side, a lot of shop owners decide that they're going to be the salesperson after they've backfilled all their other roles, because it's the most critical, and they just can't imagine anyone else doing it well enough. And some people, hire a salesperson or a rep or something.
Yeah.
But generally, I don't see the trajectory of growth as you guys are describing. So, do you think it was? And I always talk about, successful shops are very much sales and marketing driven, and they generate this positive sales pressure. So they have more opportunities than they have capacity for. So
sure.
therefore, they can be selective. Do you feel like your success to grow as quickly as you did just was, that approach where you really were driving heavily on that and then executing really well on the shop floor side to make those good parts, deliver them on time, and keeping your customers happy?
It's definitely a fact that you have to make good parts and deliver them on time to keep the customer happy. But our sales team, they always got, new opportunities for us. And when something would come through the door, we'd just jump on it and try to get it done. And with, in our industry too, a lot of times the customer would have emergencies. And I think that's what
Mm-hmm.
really set us apart is the
Yeah,
fact that we could knock the ball out of the park when it came to emergencies. We had, good equipment. We had a lot of knowledgeable guys, and sometimes we could make the impossible happen, and that helps our sales team get more orders.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. We have this saying in our company that, we'll quote it, win it, buy the material, make it, and ship it before our competitors quote it. So, I think it's a ground. I really believe, yes, you have to add sales infrastructure. You got to add people. We made a decision 2017, 2018. We had a gentleman that started at the same time when we started the company, Tony Leone. He's been with us forever. He's been an incredible asset. He was a seasoned guy. He's 20 years older than I am, and Joel. And he really gave us a lot of kind of, market headway and penetration right out of the gates because of his background. Uh, but we ended up, Joel's right. We had to get to a place where we had a confidence interval that our workforce, the equipment, the capabilities we had are very valuable in terms of how quick we can turn things around, our high quality products and everything else. That gave us the confidence to go and we've hired, I think right now we have 7 total people between sales and customer service. And that's spread into multiple different industries inside of, and when I say industries, I'm talking about under the power industry. You have, new units, energy services, new product introduction. Under defense, you have naval, you have aerospace, and some other verticals we're working in. So we did have to make a heavy investment in sales, but it only was we were only capable of doing that because of the work and the workforce and the capabilities we put in the operation first. So a lot of people say, "Hey, you got to sell stuff, but you got to be able to make the stuff and support that." And we had such a strong workforce and such a strong culture that it enabled the sales function to happen effectively.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's good that Dave mentions culture too, because, a lot of times when customers walk through the shop, they say, man, I can't believe how many young people you have. I can't believe
That's right.
everybody's smiling. I can't believe they're happy to be at work. And to us, it's just normal. But it's like coming to work with a bunch of friends, and
Yeah.
we got a battle that we got to fight, and we get through the day, and we all pull together. It's like a team, and everybody knows what everybody's good at. So when there's a problem, you know who to go to ask the right questions and everything. And it's really fun going to work, and it makes it's not as bad as it could be. Let's put it that way. You know how life in a
Mm-hmm.
machine shop can be. It can be
I
rough.
certainly do. Yes.
Hey,
Yes.
Paul, I'm going to say one more thing on the topic, and I mean this wholeheartedly. Selling is easy when you got that guy in the shop. I'm being dead serious. I'm not just being, falsely nice about Joel. It's putting salespeople and they're excellent. Our sales guys are amazing. Like I can't say enough about them. They're awesome. They work hard. They really care about our customers. But man, it makes it so much easier to sell when no matter what you throw into the shop, and these guys are going to figure it out. So that's the magic formula right there.
And I'll add that it's not all me, because I have a great group of guys, and they amaze me every day, the things they come up with, and the way that
Mm-hmm.
they solve problems. Like, I'm serious. It's like you just open the door and then they jump through, and they have things that I couldn't even think of, solutions to problems. And it's so nice to see.
Well, knowing that many of them came from the school you were teaching at and
Yes.
just young and green but eager,
Right.
and sounds like good mentorship if they're really the ones now doing the problem solving, being creative, thinking outside the box, and
You
impressing
have to
you.
you have to take these people and give them the free rein. You know what I mean? You can't hold them back. You can't say,
Right.
"Oh, this is how I do it, and this is how I want you to do it." You have to say, "This is how I do it, but if you want to make an improvement, I'm here to help you." And the parts that we're working on today, it's unbelievable. I
Yeah.
never thought we'd be making them,
Yeah.
and the guys that are doing it are students that I had at college. It's unbelievable.
That's really neat.
Paul, tell me about your trip to Italy.
I went there with the NTMA and we got to tour SMW Autoblok, 2 different facilities. Absolutely blew me away. World class, enormous places. I can't even count how many machines there were, but so much automation. One of the most incredible takeaways for me was the breadth of what they made. I did not know they made so many work holding products and automation products. And I loved watching a big chuck machine a little chuck. So they were machining chucks in huge lathes. I thought that was super fun.
Yeah, you introduced them to me after you came back, and they've been to my shop. And the ideas they have to like breathe new life into some of my machines and the tools and the jobs that we're running was just shocking.
And then one of the coolest things is we're bringing this new automated pallet delivery system, the Hennig workflow, to market. And guess what the interface is? It's SMW 0-point locators. It's really sweet.
We're getting ready to get some of those.
So how do people find SMW Autoblok to look through that massive catalog of products?
It's SMW Autoblok, BLOK.com.
Yeah, get rid of that C. SMW Autoblok, BLOK.com.
So you guys talked about the ability to respond to emergency jobs and just you deliver it before your competitors are even quoting it. How do you do that? Like, a busy shop has their spindles busy for days or weeks on end.
Yeah,
Um, back in my shop days, we did like carve off like half a dozen machines that we called our dedicated prototype, like NPI
Sure.
department.
yeah.
And then we had our production machines. Like, have you guys done something similar, or how can you be so responsive?
That's a tough question to answer just because, like, we don't have dedicated equipment for that. We just always find a way to get it in there. And
Okay.
we realize that when the customer calls and they need something right away, we have a lot of equipment duplication. So if we have a certain job running on a machine that we might have to use for an emergency job, we can shift jobs around and maybe work a second or third shift and still have that capacity. And
Mm-hmm.
and we've got a real flexible work team too, so the guys are willing to come in on second, third shift and do whatever it takes. And I know that's not normal, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like the culture that we have.
Do you have a normal second or third shift that are smaller so they can flex and get more bandwidth there if people are
We
willing to come work it?
Correct, we do. Yeah, so we've got typically
Okay.
we try to cycle parts on second shift and
Yep.
handle the more tech stuff during the day. But a lot of times you got run times that might run into this second shift, so guys will come back and then get another operation going or something. And the flexibility that the guys give us, we kind of do in return. If they need a day off to be with their kids or something, we let them do it. So and I think that with the workforce this day and age, you kind of have to be flexible. That autonomy is what people like, but they'll return the favor as well.
And I think, Paul, also part of it too is the industry has shifted quite a bit. If you look at the power industry in general, when we first started 20 years ago, the amount of emergencies for outage support and everything else were pretty high percentage of the total, work volume. Uh, Outages are much better planned these days. I've been in the power generation since 2000, so I've been seeing this for about 26 years. So outages are better planned. It's better organized. The OEMs are managing these things farther in advance. So the volume of true emergency work, drop everything, cut over the machines, get stuff flowing for the customer. That percentage of work has dropped pretty dramatically. Still need to have that service orientation, but I think that the mix of work has shifted quite a bit, particularly because the OEMs are managing the outside server or those services much better and much more effectively today.
So, David, I want to go back to what did you study and what did you do at GE before you started P1?
Yeah, it's funny because I was the first generation of my family that wasn't a machinist,
Okay.
wasn't a assembly technician. Even my great grandfather was a lathe operator, going through World War II at General Electric here in Schenectady. My grandmother was making munitions down there in the plant, run a little punch
Wow.
line or whatever it was.
Hmm.
So I was the first non-trades person in the generations of my family. So I went to a local school here in Schenectady called Union College, and I studied economics. I thought I wanted to be a history professor. Then my father told me my junior year, "You're never going to make money as a history professor." So, and then I realized I hated writing and researching. So that's usually what a PhD has to do.
Yeah.
So I got an internship at GE, and that was in 1999. I spent the next 18 months really working on this whole plant modification. We moved part of the buy to Japan and Mexico. I was traveling and working full time my senior year in college. And then when I graduated from college, I went on to a 2-year training management program at GE called the Operations Management Leadership Program, OMLP. So I traveled around. I worked in supply chain, worked in the plant, worked in manufacturing. Really just got a good, I was young, but I got a really good exposure to plant environment, supply chain environment, machining, heavy manufacturing, assembly, quality. Loved IS 9001,
Mm-hmm.
and so that was kind of my background. And then when I left GE, Joel and I jumped into that one company where he was working. We purchased it, and then we started P1 together. So it was that was the
Okay.
background. And it's funny. I always say, I love the trades, not because I'm a tradesperson, but because when I walk the shop floor and I see the 50, 60 tradespeople that we have, I see my father. My father was a hardworking guy, raised 7 kids, and so I always tell people I go to work with my dad every day.
That's a beautiful sentiment. Well, I can see the combination of sort of your well-rounded business savviness, and I'm sure that program through GE was just, pretty amazing with Joel's technical, on the shop floor and clearly cultural leadership, right? That not every technical person has a natural gift for. That's a formula for success right there, if I've ever
Yeah.
seen one.
We didn't plan it, but it kind of worked out.
Yeah. I mean, we had that a little bit in my shop. My partner Kelsey was so technical, so good on the machines. Also, just a great leader, and we had a
Yeah.
great team that had fun together. We were at it for 17 years. We did not have quite as much growth as you had, but
Yeah.
you have had. But it is special when you have those complementary skill sets that
Yeah.
just work out really well. So
And now,
Definitely.
and now
that's
his
awesome.
son is trying to date my daughter, so we're trying to figure out that
Oh,
dynamic right
poor
now.
dad.
So,
Oh
and
my
I
gosh.
said, I got 2 older sons too. I don't mind when the boy's doing that stuff, but when it's your daughter, you're like, all right, let's relax a little bit. No, I'm only, they play Roblox together. So,
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That is too funny.
Hey guys, it's Nick from Making Chips, and I just wanted to tell you, if you're looking to push your shop forward this year, you need to be at the DN Solutions Manufacturing Without Limits event. That's where I'll be at the DN Solutions Chicago Tech Center May 5th and 6th, and I'll be standing next to a lights out monster, a DVF 5000 with a Hennig workflow feeding the beast. And they're running more than 15 other machines live on the floor, not just demos, live cutting too. Plus, you'll have expert-led seminars, automation insights, and the chance to talk directly with engineers and other manufacturers solving the exact same challenges you have. And they're making it easy. Breakfast and lunch are included both days, so you just show up and focus on learning. If you want to see what's possible for your shop, this is the place. Register now at the link in the show notes or visit dn-solutions.com. That's dn-solutions.com.
So is it safe to say that employees have not been a limiting factor in your growth? Or is it still,
I,
I mean, almost every shop says it's the hardest thing.
I,
So,
yeah. So we've always been pretty aggressive when it comes to training and finding, young talent. It worked great when I was at the college, and I taught there from 2009 to 2022. And my wife and I, we actually have 4 children. So my wife got to the point where she said, "You got to quit something." And I was like, "Well, obviously, I got to stop teaching at the school." But what we've done since then is we have a great relationship with it's called the BOCES program in New York, and that's the
I've
Board
heard of
of
this.
Cooperative Education Services. And we actually go, it's a high school program where students can come from parent schools and go to a tech center and learn the trade. So we have a brilliant relationship with these people, and they let us have interns. They let us come in and give speeches, about being machinist, becoming a tradesperson. And we actually have a visitation coming up on the 5th of March where we're going to go in. A couple of guys from the shop floor are going to go in and talk to the potential students and the parents. I think it's critical that the
yeah,
parents of these kids understand that you can be a tradesman and make a good living, and you're not working in a
Absolutely.
dungeon. I mean, we're working with high tech software, Mastercam
Hmm.
and SolidWorks, and we have beautiful CNC equipment and high tech gauging, and it's like you're working in a laboratory, not a dungeon. And we have to get the parents to understand that their children can work in a high tech environment, and it's critical for us.
Hallelujah.
And we keep doing that. That's how we find our employees. We have interns. We actually have a New York State apprenticeship program where all the people that go through that they do 8,000 hours of on the job training, as well as related instruction at Hudson Valley Community College, which is a 2-year associate's degree.
Hmm.
So I think on the shop floor right now we have over 20 certified CNC journeymen that have gone through
Wow.
that program. Yes,
That's amazing. Okay.
and
So that
and
is
those are
clearly a differentiator.
those are the guys that are teaching our younger generation, and they see how valuable that education is.
But they were once in their own shoes. They were
That
the
is
early ones
that
that
is
you got
correct.
as
Yep,
apprentices.
yep,
Okay. So now they're paying it forward to the next generation coming in
yep.
behind them.
Paul, we've even got a situation. I'll talk about John Young for a second. John started with us, I think, in 2012, 2013, second shift. Incredible programmer. Remember, he was running the small horizontal integrex we had, Joel.
Oh, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and today, John, machinist, apprentice, journeyman certificated. Just an amazing mind. Just an incredible technical talent. Our business is split into 3 operating divisions, and he runs one of those divisions today. So it's a profit and loss center. It's about a 7 or 8 million bucks a year, making a pretty complex product line. It's not a lot of machining. We have some machining in that operation, but it's mostly assembly, bending, forming, insulating. Pretty high profile product line for the power gen industry. And here he is. I mean, John's got to be what, 36, 37 years old, if I had to
Yeah.
guess,
Yep.
and came from a second shift machining operation to running a profit and loss center, which is just incredible. And here's the nice thing about this. I want to say this because it's really important. So you look at Joel, you look at a guy like John Young, who's running a profit and loss center. Lauren Combier is 33. Joel hired him 10 years ago, trained him, developed him. He's our plant manager now. You don't get a lot of guys like Joel who's humble enough to say, I don't want to run that P&L and I don't want to be the plant manager. I want to be the guy that is continuing to take these young people in and training and developing them and growing their careers. And it's very hard to meet somebody sometimes who, when you say that, I remember we were going to promote Lauren to plant manager. I say, hey, Joel, I call Joel. We talk all the time. I always kind of bounce things off of him and vice versa. And I said, Joel, what do you think about this decision? And in the back of my mind, I know Joel very well, but in the back of your mind, you're always like, hey, is this going to be easy for him to take? Is this going to be hard for him to take? And Joel said to me, it's an incredible idea. He's amazing. I respect the heck out of him. I'm so happy for him. You don't get that a lot. You don't get that a lot in a manufacturing factory shop environment, but that's exactly why these kids are succeeding and doing so well, is because you got that guy that believes in them. And then it's pretty easy for me to say, hey, on the business side, I just got to create opportunities for these guys, right? I don't want to hold them back. But they all have these different paths they're taking in life, just because of that belief in them and that mentorship that Joel was talking about.
Oh, I appreciate that, Dave, and it makes me smile every time I see somebody succeed, though, because it's, I mean, I can't do it all, right? And the more you realize that you can't do it all, and you gotta have a team, and you can help those people succeed, it makes a great work environment. I mean, we've got a couple machines we're doing some repairs on right now, and it's actually the spindle drive motor. The keys have started to wear out, and you get a lot of we call it like chucking in the spindle. The spindle doesn't sound good. I used to be the guy that would take care of that repair, but now I've showed another gentleman how to do it, and he loves doing it. He's like, "Oh yeah, let's do this." And it's like to see the excitement in his eyes.
Who you talking about, Johnny?
No, it's Vitali.
Oh, Vitali likes
yeah,
it.
when we pull those spindle motors out, we have to actually recut the keyways on the motor shaft and make a stepped key to fit the coupling that's in the gearbox, and it's precision work. I mean, it's got to be within half a thousandths. And he sets everything up and indicates it in and calls me over and says, "Hey, look at this." And I mean, it's within 2/10, and I'm like, "You're the man. You take this job now." I love
Joel,
it.
Joel, I just want you to know, I would have got it within 1/10, but that's just what I would have done.
I hear you. I hear you. But that's just an example of the teamwork that we have, and like if it's fixed or if it's broken, we fix it. We don't just try to buy something new. We try to take care of our equipment. And a lot of times the production schedule doesn't allow for that, but we know that we have to do it to be able to service our customer. So, and now before the move, one thing we're trying to do is we're trying to remedy some small issues. Issues they tend to build on themselves, and you get two or three things that go wrong, and then you're like, oh, we got to do some service work here. So
Right.
we'll lean on the OEM to come in and help us pull something apart, and then if there's anything we can fix, we'll take care of that in the shop ourselves.
Hmm.
And that's good too for the guys to see, because then they realize when something goes down, you don't always have to just call a service team. You can fix some stuff yourself, and get through
Yeah.
the job.
Paul's the benefit of having a bunch of farmers on the team that could fix anything.
You have to be resourceful in a machine shop.
Yeah. I've actually heard similar things about people that grew up on farms being
Oh, yeah.
amazing employees.
Well, that's the thing. Like I grew up on a farm in rural upstate New York, and
Yeah.
John Butler and Lauren Conbier, they're all hillbilly farmers, but we somehow you put us on a nice piece of equipment and we can make it happen.
Yeah.
It's so funny because somebody asked me one time, because our workforce, if you look across all 3 operating divisions, the average age in the plant is like 32. And Joel and I are bringing
Wow.
the average up right now. So they're going to fire. They're going to get rid of us pretty soon and replace us with 35-year-olds. But somebody asked me one time. They go, "Oh my gosh, how did you create such a millennial workforce in the manufacturing industry?" And I said, "We didn't. And they said, what do you mean? I said, we've created a farmer millennial workforce in the manufacturing environment. They said, oh, what's the difference? I go, don't get me started.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow. So yesterday I interviewed a very successful shop leader. Her name is Jean Pizzo, and they have a company called Ace Metal Crafts. They're 200 people or so, and she invested very heavily in emotional intelligence training for their team,
Hmm.
including classes on humility and all sorts of things. And she credits having a very healthy culture where people understand about communication and what triggers them and working out
Yeah.
conflict and like and I know from the 100+ episodes we've done here that healthy cultures are absolutely foundational, and clearly you guys have a great one. um and I haven't heard like that kind of emphasis, but maybe just the way you guys lead sets the bar that like you're here to like the people that work with you need to be kind and resourceful and team players and and I imagine maybe
Yeah.
you've had situations where you had to get rid of someone that wasn't a great fit in the
Oh, yeah.
culture.
Happens.
Maybe just talk a little bit about that element of it and making sure you have all good apples and it's
So,
not.
so every once a quarter we have like a company wide meeting, and we have a set of core values that David gives out awards for. Dave, you
Nice.
want to talk about that a little bit? How we vote
Yeah,
and
I'd be
everything?
happy to. Yeah, so we've got 4 strong values, and, our value system is, we often say, and I'll tell you a little background in terms of how we developed them. You know, you when we first started talking about these things maybe 7, 8, 9 years ago, up to that point, it was kinda natural. We were just doing what we're doing, but we were growing, adding new people to the team. How do we know, what kind of value system we want? What's our culture look and feel like? So we actually started doing this roundtable discussion around, "Hey, what should our values be?" And we started having these discussions. And it didn't feel real to us. And I don't know if you remember this, Joel, but I said to the whole team, I said, you know what? Let's identify somebody in the company that we all admire and respect. Let's name that person and let's actually brainstorm what we love about that person. So the gentleman we talked about was Fred Schultz. And everyone agreed around the table, man, he is, if we could have 150 Fred Schultz, just in terms of values, right?
Yep.
Today, he's 69 years old. He's been with us since day one. He's probably the greatest mentor trainer aside from Joel in the whole company. He loves it. And so Fred's a humble guy. He's a hardworking guy. He has high levels of integrity. He's just simple and just gets about things. So with the value system that emerged for us is we want to work with people that are humble, that are learning always. And by learning, we mean also sharing with other people and not holding things too close to the chest.
Yeah.
People with high levels of integrity and people that are just diligent, hardworking. And we said that we call those our traditional Fred values. And
Nice.
over time, Joel's exactly right. I still, and Joel and I together, if it's someone in the shop, he interviews 100% of those people. I interview 100% of the people that enter the business strictly because I view that as one of my primary things that I can offer the company is, hey, does this person we're interviewing hold these 4 values? And then we celebrate those values, we monitor those values. And the best part about our values on a quarterly basis is everyone in the company votes. So it's not me, it's not Joel picking people. Everyone in the company votes on those 4 values for that quarter who demonstrated the most, and we give out awards, and it's a great recognition from their peers that they represent that value, and they're really representing the best of what we have to offer the world in terms of Fred Schultz.
That is awesome. Wow, that's a great takeaway. Very good. All right. Financial transparency with your team. What jobs went well, that sort of thing. Where you guys land on this? Sharing
I'd
I'll
like to hear
profit
agree.
from you,
loss,
Joe.
that sort of thing.
Oh, financial transparency. Well, on the shop floor, you know when a job doesn't go well.
Yeah.
But I you know, Dave can handle that question better than I can, I would say.
Yeah, I think we're transparent to a degree. I'm always careful with this stuff because, cash flow and profitability is very, very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, I'm not saying, I think anyone on our team, if they really wanted to understand and know what they could, of course. So I'm always very careful about, I never want to share, bad news. I don't want to, we'll identify areas where we need to get stronger and everything else. But I think in terms of revenue, in terms of, general profitability. We're pretty open and transparent about those things.
Hmm.
Yeah.
If we have a tough time, we'll share that and everything else. But
Yeah.
we don't publish everything to the whole team, and for no other reason that I don't want. It's one thing I don't want people to worry about. When people
Yeah.
come to work, when they come to work, and I know, I follow Jack Stack. I think his stuff's incredible with the whole, open book management and transparency and everything else. But at the same time, life is hard enough as it is. And we all have families. We all have struggles outside of work. We have struggles inside of work. I view my job to absorb a lot of the chaos from outside world, from customers and suppliers and cash flows and banks and all that stuff, and to provide a very healthy, as stress free as you can get work environment, which is not, it's impossible. So
Right.
that's kind of the way I view that transparency. Not because we're trying to hide anything
Yeah.
from anybody, but we invest, Paul. We invest. We have a principle. We reinvest 100% of the profits back in the company, and we've done that
Wow.
for 20 years straight now. It's raises, hiring, um, you know, uh, buying new equipment, expanding operations. Our mission is to revitalize American manufacturing. People always ask us how do you do that? Hiring young people, training, developing them, giving them a good career, buying more equipment, expanding operations, servicing more clients. And if we can do that effectively, that's where our financial transparency comes from, is investing back in those things constantly.
Hmm.
And I'd like
That's
to add to that too. If a mistake happens, and we know mistakes are going to happen, Dave and I, we don't come down on the guys. We try to
Yeah.
work through it and get a solution and learn from our mistakes. And if we got to buy another piece of material, if we have to buy another tool, it is what it is. It's part of the job. You're not gonna you don't have to yell at a machinist when he messes a part up. We feel
right.
bad enough as it is, and we know we got to make it over. And if we mess something up that another guy's already got time into, we feel twice as bad. And so I mean, we're all in it together. We're a team, and we appreciate the fact that Dave doesn't come down on us when stuff goes wrong.
Well, if I came down on them for that, they'd come down on me for 50 more things because I make a lot of mistakes every day. I said, I always tell the guys too, like somebody made a mistake the other day and they're apologizing to me. I said, what are you apologizing for? We all make mistakes. He goes, yeah, this is a big one. I go, yeah, I make mistakes. I could just hit delete on it though. Just.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's chat a little bit about the three divisions, the three, organizations you've kind of built. How did you decide to structure it that way? Deputize people to be P&L leaders in those areas? Like, let's just talk a little bit about that.
Well, it's more been just because of the size of the shop that we're leasing right now. We kind of ran out of room, and
Okay.
Dave's got a way of finding space when he wants to do something. He's like, "Hey, I found another warehouse." I'm like, "Okay, here we go." So you can add to that, I'm sure, Dave.
Yeah, initially it kind of happened naturally because we started with strictly just machining operations, and then we expanded obviously into producing these large windings or coils for the power generation industry. Then we started building a pretty robust supply chain model for our business, which I think for smaller companies like we are is actually not as common as one might think. We put a lot of investment in our supply chain, working with other small shops in our community, and so it kind of naturally emerged into like precision machining, coils and supply chain operations. And that those three kind of rose to the top. But now moving into this new campus, we're building 90,000 square feet, plus we're keeping an inbound materials location, which is another roughly 20,000. So about 110,000 square feet total. The natural next progression for us, at 50 million, is we're splitting the business into two operating. We're taking those three and putting it into two: energy and defense. And the reason we're doing that is the defense business, yeah, underlying capabilities of machining, assembly, all those types of work, very, very similar. Materials are different, right? Joel knows that, right? Monel and, Inconels and all that versus copper,
Oh yeah.
aluminums, and carbon steels. But the primary decision for that was a lot of the certifications and compliance requirements that are coming down from the defense industry, CMMC, AS 9100, further advancements around that, better intellectual property controls in terms of, U.S. citizens and all that stuff. So the natural next progression is energy and defense, and we're actually moving those into their own buildings with a shared central inbound materials division. And we think, and then we think the third division in the future will be a dedicated aerospace division. So that's kind of how it happened naturally. And then it's really gotten to this point now where these two industries are emerging and growing simultaneously, and it requires us to, put certain compliance and other certifications in place.
Hmm.
Hmm. And then the mindset as you just get big enough that you can't handle it all is we just need to put someone in that role to help lead that division. That do they have P&L responsibility for those
No,
areas,
they
or
do.
just the
They do.
execution?
No, they do to a degree. We have a pretty strong administrative team, and like John Young is a great example at the Qual Shop. He is incredible. The guys love him. Like he's got a 22-person workforce. He's beloved over there. He's a technical genius. He's got a lot of EQ for being a farmer,
Mm-hmm.
machinist, a journeyman. We try and take some of the P&L responsibility off his plate, but he understands how he impacts it. I always tell guys, look, if you're running a P&L, we're not a private equity company. Nobody's going to yell at you if you don't make your numbers. We're not that kind of company. We're going to come support you. You got to hit numbers, right? I had an employee or a team member say to me one time, because you care a lot about numbers. I'm like, you care more about numbers than I do. And they're like, what do you mean by that? I said, well, if you didn't get a paycheck next week, would you keep showing up? They're like, well, no. I said, yeah, we got to hit numbers so you get a paycheck. Um,
Right.
but we always try and support people. We want them to understand the P&L, and we want them to understand what levers they can pull. We want them to understand how they impact it, but we also don't want to, if they're contributing in a significant other way, we're not going to, pull the rug out from under them, not hitting their numbers.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I just, picking up threads of, this conversation that maybe you guys are doing differently than many shops. And I don't see many, quite honestly, that will say, yeah, this is a division based on the type of work or the equipment or the machines or whatever, or just the workflows, and let's find someone and put them in charge of this whole thing. Um, they usually just try to spread themselves more thin, as they
Right.
grow, and not delegate as well. So that sure seems to me like something you guys are good at and you lean into, and it gives back in the ability to scale to sizes that many companies hit their head up against,
Yeah.
and they don't break through those thresholds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The next part, Rich, real quick, 30 seconds. The next big iteration for us organizationally is the defense energy, but then we're breaking up those businesses into 6 and 3 value streams. So even the next iteration for us is going to be value stream managers, vertical value stream managers around 9 particular product families, 6 of which are in the energy business and 3 of which are in the defense business. And for us, if we can get each, so that really breaks up the business from a bigger company to 2 operating divisions to 9 mini businesses. And
Mm,
then our goal is to have value stream managers leading each one of those 9 mini businesses inside the 2 divisions inside the larger company. And I often find, the easiest way to manage complexity is to break it into its simplest parts. And trying to break it from this big complex thing to divisional to value streams down to the individual roles that operate within those value streams.
Hey, it's Paul from Making Chips. If you've been burned by recruiters who don't understand manufacturing, you are not alone. That's exactly why we created Hire MFG Leaders. We're not just recruiters, we're current and former shop owners, and we know what it takes to lead in this industry. Whether you're hiring your next operations leader, sales manager, or production supervisor, we'll help you find someone who actually fits. Learn more at makingchips.com/hire. Let's talk about metrics for a minute. Besides maybe the obvious, some financial numbers and like on-time delivery and stuff, are there any other sort of metrics you guys really track that you think are unique or interesting that maybe other people don't think enough about?
I mean, we don't measure it, but it's measured in retention, and tenure is level of engagement. Matter of fact, that's actually not true. We did last year. I think we applied for a top workplace, and you have to do like a survey.
Yeah.
And I think out of the 140ish people that we have, I think maybe like 85 or 90 people responded to the survey. You don't see who responded what, but they
Yeah.
give you the generic feedback. And I think our average engagement number was like 87%. And
Wow.
that was our engagement level. And that means engagement with the vision, engagement with the future, engagement with work. And I think the national average, according to this study, was like 62%. So I thought that was pretty cool. And we see it in retention and we see it in tenure, but I thought that was a pretty cool metric.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it comes back to the mission or vision you mentioned earlier, right? Revitalizing manufacturing. Like
Yeah.
that is a different type of mission than most manufacturing companies. You know, they
Yeah, I
might
think
say something like making great products for our customers, but you
right.
got yours is bigger. Yours is more
It's
aspirational.
well, thank you, but we love to see people succeed, and their success is our success, right? So if we bring these young guys in, young guys and girls, get them in manufacturing, get them interested, that's revitalizing American manufacturing. Those people are part of the economy now. They're buying houses, they're having kids, and they're part of it, and that's what I think. That's what Dave loves to see. It's what I love to see, and it's a true vision of ours is to
Hmm.
revitalize the American manufacturing.
And it can get you in trouble sometimes because I one time purchased a foreign vehicle and I didn't hear the end of it. So I had to get rid of that foreign vehicle and go back to a GMC. So and it's funny because my wife looks at cars sometimes. She'll be like, "Oh, can I get this?" I'm like, "No." I go, "You have to get it. You have to get an American made vehicle." She goes, "Why?" She goes, "We're trying to revitalize American manufacturing for God's sake."
That is funny. We've heard a lot of successes here, but this is the hardest business in the world. What are some of the
Yeah,
biggest challenges you guys have faced and are facing today?
Joe, I'll let you start from the operational
Well,
side.
so challenges, obviously, I mean, you have to get people in the door and they have to be interested in manufacturing. And sometimes you don't, y- y- you know, the guys that come in, if they've been through like the Hudson Valley program or they're in BOCES, they understand what they're up against and we can train them pretty good. Other times when people come through the door, you're thinking to yourself, I wish their parents had taught them some things before they even came to the machine shop because it's like you see a lot of young kids lack that parental guidance, and
Mm,
they don't even when it comes to picking up a wrench and tightening a bolt, they don't know which way it tightens. And then, you're up against something. You're like, wow, we really got to, how far back do we have to go to start teaching these kids to get them to the point where they can run a CNC machine for us? So, like, the biggest challenge for me, I think, is like when I see an intern come in, I kind of have to gauge what level of skill they have already because, where can I build from? And, that I would say to me, that's my biggest challenge is just when new people come in, how far back do we have to go to start training them up?
mm-hmm. Yeah.
How about you, Dave?
Yeah, yeah, building on that, the complexity of planning our business is very hard. I mean, I'm sure, Paul, you've experienced that in the past, for many years, really, really high mix, low volume work, trying to churn through that with, keeping your inventory turns up, keeping your inventory balances as low as possible, sustaining some service level with your customers with on-time delivery and first piece yield on quality. I always tell people, if you can learn to operate and manage and run a manufacturing company because it touches every element of business from sales to marketing to inventory to turns to equipment to tooling, and we're setting up, materials and cutting things to 3 and 4 place decimals with temperature variance in a shop. What we do is very, very hard. The nice thing about our business over the last 3 or 4 years, it's starting to emerge into pretty good product categories, which is going to hopefully make it a little bit easier. And that's why I'm bought into lean manufacturing 1,000%. I've been studying about lean. Admittedly, I've never really had hands-on experience deploying lean manufacturing or the principles and the systems associated with it, but I've been researching the heck out of it over the last 3 or 4 years. And what we're learning now, because of the complexity of our business, yes, we got good emerging product families that are happening. Our end industries are growing simultaneously, which always helps. But really trying to build an operating system that allows us to simplify how we manage that system to get products through, in a more effective manner. So we're bought into lean manufacturing 1,000%. We're deploying it as quickly and effectively. And the big reason we're moving is we're investing in a campus so we can cellularize the entire business around specific product families and then build a training center that Joel's going to run, so we can actually manage it more effectively because it's a complex business. It's challenging. This is a challenging business.
Oh
The
yeah.
hardest one in the world, I always say.
And when we bring young people in, we want to give them a chance to get their hands on the equipment and learn in a less stressful environment. It's tough
Hmm.
when you bring a guy in and you're like, this job's got to go. We got to run this lights out. It's like, oh man, we got to get the guy to understand how to indicate a vise in and touch off a tool before we start yelling at him that we got to get a job out the door. And
Sure.
you've been in a shop environment where if the customer needs something, we have to get that part out the door. And I would love to not put that pressure on the new hires right away. And I think with the training environment and the training cell, that's going to allow us to figure out where a new employee's strengths are, and then we can
Yeah.
deploy them to the cells on the shop floor that they can handle. And some of the guys have already told me, they're like, I want a guy that's green. I want somebody that I can train right from the ground up and show them everything with not much
Hmm.
experience. And I respect that, because that to me is that is good mentorship, wanting to take somebody that doesn't have any machining background, and help them succeed in their career.
Hmm. Very good. I like that idea of a training area, taking some of that pressure off. I've seen a few other shops do that. It takes resources, obviously, so
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
but I think
And
the
we're still going
investment
to
is well
run
worth
we're
it.
still going to run production through that area.
Okay.
We have to be strategic about how we plan and what jobs we're going to put in there. And I'd love to have like repeat setups that we've already proven out,
Hmm.
exactly how the tools are going to react, and then I can let the students or the interns make some adjustments, and see how the chip load is, and see what the spindle's doing, and kind of get that feeling on their own of, all right, I can make some adjustments, I can do this, and
Hmm.
once you see that light switch come on, and they're like, wow, this, I can do this. And I've got a guy, George Kipp, his name is. He's a young guy. He came out of Massachusetts. It's McCann Technical School, and we hired him as an intern. And he was only going to work like 2 or 3 days a week. And after about the first week, I said, no, you're coming 5 days a week, because the kid, he's just got it. You tell him to do something, and he pays attention. And we were actually working on it was a critical defense part. It was made of Manel, and we're drilling some deep holes. And I told him, I said, this is the speed and feed for this drill. When with a brand new insert, if you start to see the spindle load rise, if you see, more load in the Z, you have to change the insert. And I mean, that kid would stand right there, and he'd watch that load meter. He wasn't even looking at the part, and he was doing exactly what I told him to do. But from that, he gained so much knowledge and confidence,
Right.
and that's when, like, you can see the light switch comes on. And he'd call me at like 8 o'clock at night. Hey, Joel, the spindle load went up about 1%. I said, you'll be okay, George. If it goes more than five, let's change inserts. And I mean, the kid, he's doing so good. And it just makes me smile to see somebody like actually want to do it, and pay attention to that
Wow,
degree. Yeah.
that is fantastic. That is so good. Sticking with lean for a second, we had Nick DeGeorgia on the Making Chips
Yeah.
podcast a few months ago, and his energy is just infectious for lean. Tell me how. I mean, I think lean is so transformational when done well at a business, at a
Yeah.
shop.
Yeah.
How have you made it so successful there?
Well, first and foremost, we haven't made it successful yet. I want to be very clear about that.
It's always a
We
journey.
are, yeah, we are, first and foremost, it starts with some small wins, starting to put some staging lanes in place.
Yeah.
One of the things that we're learning, excuse me, is you can't plan for every interdependency between machines, right? You launch a product, there's going to be all these, handoffs, changeovers, and really just trying to organize the work into staging areas, prioritization,
Yeah.
giving the guys what they need when they need it. Pretty simple stuff, right? So,
If I can speak to that for 1 minute,
yeah, 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 go
Nick
for it.
Nick DeGeorge has done a great job with like categorizing our tooling and putting
Hmm.
QR codes on specific tooling, so we can actually scan a tool and update where that tool is located in the shop. So if another person needs it for another job, which might be more critical than the one I'm working on, they
Hmm.
can see exactly, oh, Joel's got that in the horizontal mill. He's going to come to me and see if they can use that tool if we don't have another one. And that level of organization has done so much for us in a
Yeah.
job shop. Just it saves so
Awesome.
much time. When a guy, you know what it's like in a shop. Oh my God, I need that inch and an eighth drill. Where is it? And you're looking through everybody's tool mag, and somebody's got it tucked in their toolbox. It's like, what are we doing here? A- And and now we actually have a QR code that you can scan and find exactly where that drill is. It helps us immensely.
That's very cool.
Yeah, so the last 2 years or so have been put some of that foundation in place, and the big move for us is the new campus and cellularizing everything, and continuing to go to more visual management systems and understanding tack rates, and making what the customer needs. Natural instinct in manufacturing, no matter where you go, is to batch and queue things, just take to optimize setups and
Hmm.
and make leg parts and stuff. So we're slowly transitioning the culture, and we do a lot of we do cell leader training every couple of weeks. We're starting to hand out more literature. Nick is doing a really good job of deploying lean activities and solutions into the shop right now. We understand it's going to be a multi-year journey and probably one that never ends. I'll tell you what, from my perspective, Uh, I was really excited when we started P1. It was new, it was adventurous, it was incredible. The last 3, 4 years have been absolutely exciting, just kind of doubling the business and then doing it successfully with a good team. I've never been more excited about the next 10 years because of lean manufacturing. I'm like a disciple. Like I
Mm,
am, I consume last week. I was traveling. I must have consumed 3.5, almost 4 books on lean, podcasts, information, and I'm bought in fully. Like I want to win the Shingo Prize. I want our
mm-hmm.
company to win the Shingo Prize, and I want to get turns up to 15. I want to get inventory values down by 2/3. I want to get on time delivery up over 95% consistently. So we're just beginning the journey. Nick's doing a great job. The team's buying into it, but we got a long ways to go still.
Oh yeah.
Well, having that really strong belief and then alignment that this is what we're doing that's a critical aspect. So I'm glad you're all fired up about it.
Yeah.
If you ever find yourself out in Western Washington, let me know and we'll go visit Paul Akers at Fast Cap, the author of 2 Second Lean. He's just like 10 minutes up the road from me.
Is he
So
really?
yeah.
What's
Um,
their just real quick? What kind of business is Fast Cap?
they make equipment mostly for the woodworking and construction
Oh,
industry.
cool. Oh,
But he
good.
wrote but he wrote the book 2 Second Lean. If you haven't read it, you should
I
pick it
haven't.
up and just yeah, pick it up and distribute it. Buy a copy for your entire company, for every
Okay.
employee. It's really
All
that
right.
good. It's really that
We'll
good.
have it tomorrow, Paul.
He's yeah, he's kind of a guru in the lean world. So I'm
I
excited for you
love it.
to discover it. Guess a second longer on that. Like back in my shop days, our shop was right here in town, 10 minutes away from his shop. So, we would take our team occasionally and go tour his company and just see all the, they spend, I don't know, 20 minutes every morning. Every single person works on lean activities, right?
Wow.
To take something that's even just 2 seconds out of their day that's waste, right? And just you do that reliably for years and it's just transformational.
Wow.
So
That's amazing.
we could do this for another hour, but we're getting close to time. Um, this has been such a fun conversation. You guys have already shared a lot of really great things you've done, but what would you say are sort of your just best strategic moves that have helped you get to the place where you're at today?
Well, I'll tell you, our commitment to young people, I think, is probably number one as as I think through it. And that happened purely because we needed to do it. When you start a company from nothing, at 26, 27 years old, like we were, you're not really going to draw seasoned people away from other companies. So
Yeah.
just
Mhm.
by pure nature of need, we started developing like Joel. We profiled it pretty good in this chat. So I think number one is a commitment to the next generation. I think that's the number one thing that truly stands out. That's something that we've done very, very well. Again, not strategically, not intentionally. It just kind of happened to start that way. And I think we've been very, very good at trying to solve complexity as we've grown and expanded. We haven't nailed it yet. I don't. By all means, we are not perfect at it, but
Hmm.
we're always working at organizational structure. I probably do during our budgeting season. I'm not even exaggerating. 70 to 80 revisions of organizational structure, flow of work, P&L structures, those kind of things, and that flows all the way down to what Joel's doing in the shop and hiring and training young people. So I'd say those two things really stand out to me.
Mm.
What about you, Joel?
Well, I would say that just the fact that you care about the guys on the floor so much, it's like everybody's name. You come around, and if people have trouble, you help them out, and that means a lot to us on the shop floor. Not every business has an owner that'll walk the shop floor and joke around with the guys and have fun like that. So that's you know, I I don't know if I can add much more than that.
Well, clearly you guys are building something very special. It's that's just very evident, and I know that anyone that's taken the time to spend this hour with us will have so many takeaways. So I really genuinely appreciate, and this has been an awfully fun conversation. If people want to learn more about P1 Industries, where do you direct them?
Joel Lape, Dave Dussault, LinkedIn is a really, really good place to start. Our website, the number one IND, so P1IND.com. You can learn quite a bit about us and follow us on LinkedIn. We're very active on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
We also do a little podcast of our own. It's called Making What Matters, and
yeah, I just
we
discovered it recently. Yeah.
so what I like to do is I just like to interview the guys in the shop and give them a chance to reflect on their journey through P1 and their how they become a machinist or whatever they do in the company. We've had sales guys on, we've had plant managers on, all different. And today I'm actually going to interview Lorenzo, our our tech guy for the podcast, and he's been doing a great job of documenting the new building construction from just a field of dirt and trees to the full building now, and seeing what's going on. So that'll be a fun podcast. But a lot of the young guys that we've hired have said that they listen to that podcast, and that's why they wanted to come for an interview.
Yeah.
And one other thing I want to say about interviewing is, you know, when I bring somebody in, I don't call it an interview. I say, come on in for a shop tour, and we'll just walk around the shop and we'll talk. Because I think if you sit down and have like a formal interview, people get nervous and they might hold stuff back. Where if you're just walking the floor and I'll kind of try to get to know them a little bit and talk about things outside of work, and you can tell right away if the guy's going to fit in or not. And
Right.
it's kind of like a little tactic that I use for maybe I'm
I
giving away
like
my
it.
secrets, but
No, it's
it
That's
good.
seems to
okay.
work pretty good.
That's good. Just the fact that in the midst of this massive move and the incredible growth you're seeing, and clearly how connected you stay with all your people, you have time to publish a podcast. Just says that alone says so much about the organization, the delegation, the prioritization of what really matters in the big picture. That's a masterclass right there. So I appreciate you guys so much, and this has been such a fun hour.
And
All
Paul,
right, thank you, Paul.
we're not too far away from being a pro shop customer with our defense industry, our defense business. So
Oh, okay. I was not expecting that, but that's cool to hear. It would be really fun to work with you guys. So
yeah,
awesome. Well, thanks so much for this time today, you guys. Appreciate it.
All right,
yeah.
thank
Thank
you,
you.
Paul.